I just want to thank everybody for their condolences that they gave me for my father's death. Funeral services were beautiful. My brother Victor, he paid for it all. He planned everything out because he knew. I told him how, you know, that my father did not want to be cremated or anything else, and that he had the desire to be buried. So he picked out the casket and the suit and everything. It was just, and the funeral parlor, it was just gorgeous. Everything, I mean, some relatives I haven't seen over 15 years, maybe up to 20, especially my cousin Helena. It was just amazing. I shouldn't say how everybody's aged. They probably looked at me and said, oh my gosh, Heather just aged. But it was beautiful. Everybody went and had their eulogies. And when I went up, I talked about my father's generosity. Uh, when my parents divorced, I stayed with my mom for a short time. Uh, she got married shortly after, and she's not mean. She was not abusive. It was a man she chose. So I can understand her being afraid, financial wise and stuff like that. Even though my dad paid child support. Uh, might I digress? He took me in when I was 15 and a half. He helped me through high school, and I explained that. And then my ex-husband, he came here to Tacoma, but at the time we lived in Bellingham, and it was a bad winter. It's, not always a bad winter there, but this time it was. So he wanted to find a job and move my daughter, my firstborn daughter, uh, to find a job. And so it was just me and her, and he took us in. And of course, it's a big house. Uh, my grandma, he was taking care of her too, because she was in her 80s, and it was shortly after my grandfather had passed away. And she was only 2 months old. Now she's 24. But every morning before he went to work, my daughter always slept with me and stuff, and he would peel the blanket back, just to look at her, just like, oh, I would catch him, he would wake me up, and I would see him looking at her, just like, oh, how cute. And just more generosity. I mean, these were things that I was pointing out. And sometimes he would babysit the kids, because the hospital I worked at was just like 2 blocks away. Bellingham is, not a big city, but it's not a little city. It's, in between. Um, but it was before St. Joseph Hospital got to be such a big hospital. And like I said, this is in Bellingham. And I worked there for 13 and a half years. Um, but the house was big, and they were so curious getting into stuff, and some of the antiques, my dad's like, no, no, no. And I'd pick up the kids, because I'd get off at 7:30, and since it was 2 blocks away, boom, I was right there. And he goes, Heather, they just don't want to go to sleep. But he knew the house was big and stuff like that. And he kind of drove him batty, but still the generosity was still there. There's a lot of good memories of me being a kid, and they put me in ballet classes, which I didn't like, but he thought, I like the princess type thing, but I like the gymnastic type things. I did more tumbling and stuff like that, and I was better at that, doing somersaults and doing balancing and everything else. So I did more of that in school. Um, but the service was really good. He was dressed up in a nice suit. They made him look good. Uh, there was times where I just wanted to sit and collapse before I viewed the body. And finally I got the courage, and oh man. And I have my coffee here, and this is my comfort food. I'm drinking it the way he would drink his coffee. Now I know some people have comfort food like potato chips or cake or some type of food that gives them a memory. But don't overdo it though. Some people do that mistake, which is really sad. Um, but my comfort food is coffee. Now, when my grandfather passed away, it was canned milk and sweet and low. So I'll drink some coffee like that. But today, I have my coffee the way my dad had it, just plain coffee, powdered creamer, which I usually use half and half, which it's more natural, and it's helped me gain, or not gain, but lose weight and stuff like that, because I was getting close to 300 pounds, but it's more of an Atkins diet that I'm going on. And it's not just all meat. But today, powdered creamer, coffee, and sugar. Um, but I'm really going to miss them. And I'm finally back home. The funeral is Friday and today's Monday. So when you make a trip to Bellingham, I live here in Tacoma, so it's not like I got to take a plane. My oldest daughter drove me. And that's another thing. When you get my age and your children are adults and having them drive you places, that's kind of surreal, I guess. Maybe that's how my dad felt about us kids, driving him around. Um, of course, at that time, he was teaching us how to drive, and then we were driving normal. And hey, Dad, let's drive you to the store. And it's like, okay. But, good memories. We had a swimming pool, and he would swing me around acting like he was going to throw me into the pool. Well, I was in the shallow end, and of course, my body's slick. And so he picked me up and pretend like he was going to do that, and I slipped through his hands, and I was in the deep end. He's freaking out. He jumps in, but I dog paddled. I guess I learned how to swim. My mom panicked too, but she was pregnant with my baby sister, and she's like, ah. And no, she didn't go into early labor. Uh, most of us siblings, there's 5 of us, were born in the summer, and my sister Laura and I are the only winter babies. But the trips to Reno, we had a blast. My dad loves fast cars. In fact, there was a slideshow of them and stuff on a DVD that they had put in on this large big screen TV, and it shows him with these fast cars and stuff like that. And there's one funny picture where he's in between these 2 Las Vegas women with the feathers and stuff like that, and he's got his arms around them, and it was cute. Uh, I I miss him, and I've got a lot of younger pictures of him. And without makeup, if I were a boy, I'd be his identical twin. But I'm a woman, so it looks like I'm a female version of him, I guess. But anyway, it was a beautiful service, and I want to thank those who gave their condolences and stuff like that. But I guess that's it. I'm going to be posting a news article later on today. But I just wanted to get this video out and just explain, I'm home now. Of course, with all these relatives that I hadn't seen for so long, well, except for Mike and Rob. Um, Mike, even though he's 2 years younger than I am, it's like everybody think we're the favorite cousins because we goof off too much. If I had him as a little brother, I guess maybe that's why. But Rob, he's the same age as I am. In fact, his birthday's a month uh, after mine. I just had my birthday on the 21st. My granddaughter, the 26th, but we had our party on the 28th. And that was the day I found out I passed. And then my cousin Robbie, I call him Robbie, Robbie and Mikey, my two cousins from my Aunt Shirley, and that was my dad's only other sibling, and she's older than he is, so she's having a hard time because, you know, she didn't expect him to go first. Um, but we all held each other together, and I swear there was 60, maybe 65 people there. It was just this huge chapel. So we all know that my dad was really loved. Friends and families, cousins, yeah, I mean, you name it, they were there. Guys that went to college and high school with my dad. Um, it was amazing. It was beautiful. So he had a good funeral, and you know what they say, absent with a body and up with the Lord. So anyway, I guess that's it. Um, yeah. Well, anyway, you guys have a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you see this. And I'm gonna have a sip of my coffee.